Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Franchise Hockey Manager 9 playthrough of the Chicago Blackhawks. The 2029 to 2030 season is about to get underway, and our Blackhawks are considered one of the Stanley Cup favorites, led by our captain and right winger Mitch Marner. We won the President's Trophy with this team last season before getting bounced in the second round of the playoffs. So hopefully we can have another great regular season this year and do even better in the postseason. Have gotten to the point where we've cut our roster down to 23 players. A couple of surprises. Not really a surprise here if you watched the last episode, but Alex Bouquet, who was a big free agent signing of us this year, was expected to be our second line center, suffered a pretty serious injury, and he's going to be out 3 to 4 months with that severe blunt trauma to his eye. So that opened up certainly one spot on the 23-man roster, and then we ended up sending down a player who was with us off and on last season in the young right winger, Jordan Forget. Ended up sending him down. You can see he played 49 games with us last year and was reasonably productive, but he got caught up in a numbers game this year. And with Forget and Bocage off of the roster, the two guys who ended up making it, kind of both surprises. We had two young Czech players, and rather than keeping one of them up and having them both feel isolated, since Vesely is actually not feeling isolated right now, but the other young Czech player who ended up making the roster, Adam Jecko, is feeling isolated. Thought it might help Jecko to have them both up. So Jecko is a guy who was a draft pick of ours a few years ago. Will be making his NHL debut. As you can see, scored 33 points in 59 games last year in the AHL. Can play both right wing and center. And then Vesely is a former second-round pick that we just signed this past offseason. Thought we may send him down into the minors for some seasoning. He can only play center for us. Scored 49 points, including 18 goals for Luleå HF in the Swedish Hockey League. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that correctly. Last season. And he is up in the NHL, going right to the NHL this year at the age of 21. So two of the youngest players on our team, I think they could both end up back into the AHL at some point this year, particularly when Mr. Bocage is ready to come off of the IL. But it's conceivable that they stay up all year. Other than that, no real surprises in the roster. The two goalies, Wallstedt and Svedebak, who we've run with the last several years. The defensemen are as expected, although Xavier Veilleux and Roy Chung will both be making their NHL debuts, although Veilleux did play with us in the playoffs a little bit last year, so more accurately, they'll be making their regular season NHL debuts, but they had kind of been in the plan to be on the roster all along. And then other than that, the big new additions are Kent Johnson, who we are transitioning to become a left winger, and Matthias Leferrier, who we signed this past offseason to a free agent contract also. 3 years at $1.85 million for Leferrier. Kent Johnson, 6 years at $6.25 million. And the other big free agent we brought in this year, unfortunately, is Bocage, who is now hurt. So the roster is ready to go. We are one of the Stanley Cup favorites, and with 2030 being an Olympic year, the season is going to be starting early this year. We're going to be opening up in September on the 29th at home against the Hurricanes. And as we get closer to our first game of the year, we'll check in on some of the key team information. Locker room is harmonious. No unpopular players. Few that are outspoken. Interesting, they're relative newcomers to the team. The rookie Veyu, the rookie Vesely, and Mathis Dubé, who's relatively young. Got a couple of popular players in Rotundi and the rookie Roy Chung, and with Marner, Larkin, and Hughes, who are our captain and our two assistant captains. And then Dzeko, the young player from the Czech Republic, who also taken a leadership role on the team. A little bit of surprise to see a guy who is young and a leader on the team, but may not be the worst personality to have in the clubhouse, and hopefully it will help him assimilate with some of the others taking on that leadership role. Taking a look at the job security, 87 fan happiness. We mentioned that we signed Johnson and Bocage. We did have to trade away Matty Beniers to make room for Johnson's contract. And then we also traded Igor Sharangovich at the beginning of the free agent period. He was unpopular in the locker room, getting to be an older player, and was going to be in the final year of his contract. Felt like made sense to move on from him now and replace him with younger guys. Season objective is a championship. The outlook is to win now. Our job security is really great at this point, but clearly we are going to have to perform well this season to keep ownership happy, given their high expectations for us. And we're getting ready for our first game of the season, and you can see the Blackhawks are the last team to play our first game of the year. We're going to be going at home up against Carolina. They are already 0-2 on the season. So we will get the roster finalized, and the puck will drop on this 2029 to 2030 season, where we've got lofty expectations and hope to win our second championship of this playthrough with the Blackhawks. And as we get ready to play our first game of the year, we'll take a look at the roster. Although the rookies Chung, Vesely, and Dzeko made the team, they are rookies and they're going to have to earn their playing time. So those are the three guys who will be healthy scratches, at least to start the season. You can see our top line, new addition Kent Johnson, last year's big addition Quentin Byfeld, and Mitch Marner, the captain. So feel like that's going to be a pretty high-powered line. Victor Eklund and Dylan Larkin, who were paired on the first line last year, are still together at left wing and center, joined by Will Shields. Third line will be Paul Cotter, Cole Sillinger, and the newcomer Laferriere. And then the fourth line, some younger players, Mathis Dubé, Nathan Villeneuve, and Frank Nazar all together. Have to work on the defensemen here. They don't seem to want to put the lines together the way that I want to, so I'll spend a second figuring that out. And the defensive pairings are going to be the two most dynamic offensive players among our defensemen, Quinn Hughes and Sam Rinzel. The rookie Xavier Veyu with Luke Coughlin on the second line, and then Kevin Korchinski and Matteo Rotundi on the third line. We had Coughlin and Rotundi, who were both picked in the first round in our first draft with this team in 2023. Paired up good chunks of the last couple seasons, so we'll be interested to see how those two do separated from each other. Have to get a little creative here because most of these guys are kind of natural left defensemen. When we do get some playing time to the rookie Roy Chung, likely as our third right defenseman, things will change up a little bit, and some of the pairings on the second and third line may be a little different going forward. But I would think that Hughes and Rinzel, as the two dynamic offensive defensemen, probably going to be paired together on the first line most of this season. And then from a goaltending perspective, Jesper Wallstedt is the guy that we traded away a couple of number one picks for several seasons ago at this point. Him and Philip Svedabak are both pretty good goalies. You can see that at least according to the pure star ratings, Svedeback is considered to be a little better than Wallstedt at this point. We're still going to lean towards playing Wallstedt as the number one goalie more often than not as the season begins, and we'll see how the two of them perform and who gets hot, and hopefully can piece together another President's Trophy winning season from the Blackhawks here in 29-30. And for one day at least, it looks like the chase for that President's Trophy and hopefully the chase for the Stanley Cup may work out well. We won the first game 5-1, and Kent Johnson with a hat trick in his first game with the Blackhawks. So can't ask for a much better start to the season and a much better start to hopefully 6 great years in Chicago for Kent Johnson than a hat trick in his first game for the Blackhawks. Right now he's on pace for 246 goals this year. If he's able to achieve that, I think that would be some kind of record. And we've made it midway through October. Victor Eklund, one of our better offensive players, has missed the last game with a facial cut that's relatively serious, but he has 6 assists in his first 6 games, 75 game rating thus far this year, so he's continued to be very productive. Hopefully we'll have him back within the next game or so. Off to a decent start here on the season, 4-1-2 record, so we had a overtime loss to the Sharks, and then more recently we had an overtime loss to Florida. Other than that, though, we're 3-1 in the month, and obviously we had the win to start the season off in September. Taking a look at the second half of the month, we've got 2 more home games in a row now before finishing the month with 5 out of 6 on the road. So not the most optimal schedule with all of those road games, but hopefully team can remain healthy and we can continue to play well above 500 hockey. Take a quick look at the injury situation, and Bocage is still out 2 to 3 months at this point, so certainly expecting that it will likely be 2030 before we see him in the lineup, but hopefully it will be relatively early in January that we do get him back. And as the season continues to move along, 7-1-2 record for the Blackhawks, so continue to play pretty well. And Kent Johnson is now converted to left wing. He was center when we picked him up in free agency this offseason, still very proficient at that position, but left wing is now kind of his natural position, so that's going to hopefully fit in well given the center-heavy roster we have had for the past few years. To get him fully converted to left wing should definitely help ensure that we have our best players on the ice as often as possible, and also have them now playing positions where they can be as effective as possible. And we've made it to the end of October. Blackhawks off to a really nice start, 10-3-2 record, 22 points. Looking at our development report, Roy Chung and Kevin Korchinski, the young defensemen, continued to improve over the course of the month, along with a lot of our younger players. And fortunately, nobody was really regressing, so that was a positive development given that we do have a few older players on our team. Can see the Blackhawks remain incredibly popular. Wallstedt, Hughes, Marner, Byfield, Johnson, and Dylan Larkin, 6 of the 12 most popular selling jerseys in all of hockey are members of the Blackhawks. And our goalie, Jesper Wallstedt, off to a fantastic start, 10-2-2 record, 230 goals against, 925 save percentage, and a pair of shutouts. Named goalie of the month for the month of October. So season is going well so far. We are surprisingly, I guess you would say, given the 10-3-2 record, perhaps third in the Central Division with 22 points. actually tied for second, but and the Blues do have a game in hand on us. They also have an extra win in the standings on us. So it's a solid start. Certainly would hope that we are competing for the best record in the hockey in the not so distant future. But the Jets at this point off to just an exceptional 13-2-1 start. So they're still 5 up on us in the division, even though we've only got one game in hand on them. So they are off to an incredible start. The hope is that we'll start making up some ground on them in the month of November. You can see Wallstedt with that great start, third in the league, or fifth in the league in goals against average, third in the league, or actually tied for second with those 10 wins. So I did mention at the start of the season that thought that time might be split eventually between Wallstedt and Svedabak, but Wallstedt's been so good, and Svedabak really hasn't been great. Only appeared in 2 games, 0-1 record with a 5.63 goals against. Would think that perhaps in November we're going to start getting a few more back-to-backs, but after putting a lot of pressure on Wallstedt the last couple of years, Svedabak seems to be regressing a little bit. Yeah, it looks like we do have 4 back-to-backs over the month of November, including 3 of them in the final 12 days of the month. So should be an opportunity for hopefully Svedabak to start performing a bit better and get a little bit more playing time here in the month of November. Taking a look at the monthly budget, we'll also take a look at the NHL statistics and particularly see how we're doing in terms of attendance. And it looks like we're still averaging. We've had 6 games. We've had 6 sellouts. So people are flocking to our beautiful new arena, the Old School Sports Arena, which opened this year, selling out every game so far. And because of that, we can try to be as thrifty as possible with our monthly finances, and we'll take game promotions down a notch, save those 2 little points. You never know when those may come in handy in terms of being able to invest in something down the line. But seems like fans are flocking to Old School Sports Arena to enjoy the beautiful new facility and also enjoy the really good hockey team that's playing there right now. Check in on Team Harmony. Everything's still going pretty well. Doesn't look like there's any significant changes there. And job security, fan happiness kind of moving in the right direction over the course of the season with our good start. Ownership seems pretty pleased with us. So things are going well here as we begin the month of November. Got 3 home games in a row to get the month started. And we've got until next weekend when we'll have any back-to-back. So a pretty good chance that we'll be seeing a lot of Wallstedt between the pipes, at least over the first week and a half of the season, of the month. And the bad news is that our star defenseman Quinn Hughes banged up with a strained groin muscle, going to be out for 3 weeks. The good news is we just won against Montreal, and we've been winning a lot of games lately in these early stages of the month of November. Started off the month with a loss to Pittsburgh, but since then we've won 5 in a row. And that 5-game winning streak, along with the Jets coming back to earth a little bit, has us with the top record in all of hockey, 15-3-3, 33 points. So Blackhawks have definitely quickly turned the season around with 5 games in a row. Not that we were playing bad, but effort is certainly to hopefully win a second consecutive President's Trophy, and we're certainly in a much better position to do that now after 5 straight wins than we were beforehand. Certainly going to be a bummer to have Hughes out until December, most likely, but think we have the depth on this team to be able to deal with that. So we are going to put Hughes On to the IL. While we're doing that, let's check in. Looks like Bouquet's 1 to 2 months away, so he continues to make a little bit of progress there. You know, maybe there's a chance we get him back in late December, but I would still tend to kind of think that first first week or two of January is a more realistic time frame to have him back on the roster. And our Blackhawks finished off the month of November yesterday with a loss at Edmonton. That said, for December 1st, we're still in pretty good shape with a 27-4 record. Unfortunately, in addition to the loss at Edmonton, had some players get banged up. Quinton Byfield strained rib cage muscle that's going to keep him out 2 to 3 weeks. Certainly not going to delay treatment on that. And then Frank Nazar, also going to be out for about 3 weeks with fractured ribs. So the injury situation is getting a little excessive. Fortunately, Quinn Hughes, the defenseman, should be back soon, which is positive. Take a quick look at the development report for November. A lot of our young players, the rookie defenseman Roy Chung, Luke Coughlin, rookie right winger Adam Jecko, goalie Philip Svetabak, and left defenseman, the rookie Xavier Veilleux, improves in acceleration, shooting, accuracy, and shot blocking. So some pretty good development over the course of the month at the NHL level and also throughout our farm system. And Dylan Larkin, perhaps not surprisingly, continues to move in the other direction at the age of 33, but that to a degree is to be expected with his age, and at least we're no longer paying him real big money. Continue to sell a lot of jerseys, be a pretty popular team with the fans. Let's check out with the less advertising that we did, whether we're still consistently selling out our home games. Hopefully that is the case. You would think with the way the team has been playing, still have 14 sellouts at home and 23,650, which means is our average attendance, which is also our capacity. So continue to sell out every game of the season for these Blackhawks. Despite that loss yesterday, our 44 points are the best in hockey with that 27-4 record. Certainly involved in a battle for the best record in the Western Conference with Vancouver. And the Devils are not far behind us either. Scoring, we don't have anybody on the leaderboard, but Wallstedt is tied for second in the league with 17 wins. And his 250 goals against average is fifth best in the National Hockey League. And before we think about the roster moves for the injured players as we finish up this episode and begin the month of December, take a look at our top scorers. We're definitely more than a third of the way through the season with 31 games played at this point. Captain, my captain, Mitch Marner, 12 goals, 18 assists, 30 points, leads the team. Quinton Byfield, who we are going to be without for most of the month of December, most likely. Marner's line mate, second on the team in scoring with 24 points. Left winger Paul Cotter, 11 goals and 12 assists, 23 points. That is pretty impressive production given that he has spent most of the year as a third line left winger for us. Right winger Will Shields with 23 points. Left winger Kent Johnson, the free agent acquisition from this past offseason, on that top line with Marner and Byfield, and leads the team and that top line with 13 goals, only 9 assists, 22 points on the year, still is +7 on the season. Dylan Larkin moved to be our second line center this year behind Byfield, 10 goals and 12 assists in 27 games, so he still continues to be productive despite the fact that he's getting older and he's losing a little bit of his physical talent. Cole Sillinger, the winger, also 22 points. And then Luke Coughlin, our leading scorer among defensemen, no goals but 20 assists on the season. And he is a glittering plus 19 on the year, which ties him for the best on the team with rookie defenseman Xavier Veilleux, who's having a really nice season. Roy Chung, the other rookie defenseman, has 18 points, as does Matthias Lafreniere, who joined us as a free agent this past offseason. Victor Eklund, only 4 goals. I guess we would consider that a little bit disappointing. He has been moved to the second line this year, but would expect more than 4 goals in 28 games for him, particularly given that he gets to play with Larkin as a center on that line. So a few guys who have been a little disappointing. Kevin Korchinski, the worst plus-minus of anyone on the team. The defenseman's -5 on the year at this point. He is also a potential free agent after this season. We've talked with him in the past about an extension. Was looking for pretty big money the last time we checked in. Still looking for $5.3 million. So that's a lot of money for a guy who is a solid defenseman, but not playing as well as we may have hoped he would over the course of this season. Looking at some of the guys with a little bit less playing time. Tyson Buksowski came up and joined us when Quinn Hughes went on to the IL. He could be headed back relatively soon, I guess, to the minors if the injury situation gets a little bit better. Frank Nazar's roster spot, we mentioned, he's going to be going on the IL with fractured ribs anyways, but he is now a 25-year-old. He's no longer a prospect. You can see we've never been able to get him more than 10 minutes a game on average over the past 3 seasons. And he's been a -3 on the year in the 17 games that he has played. He has definitely been supplanted by the rookie Adam Dzeko as our 4th-line center. Dzeko getting more playing time, more productive offensively, +6 on the season, and he's also younger. So Nazar typically now and the young center Tomas Vesely are typically the healthy scratches for the team. Clearly, Nazar is now in a position where he is not a healthy scratch, and he will be going to the injury list at this point. But all in all, despite some players, notably Nazar and Korchinski, perhaps having a bit disappointing seasons, it's been a really good start to the 2029 to 2030 season for our Chicago Blackhawks. And with the fact that we did need to move both Nazar and Byfield to the injured list, they're both going to be out likely a good chunk of December, and Bocage is still out. Did have to bring up a couple of forwards. Gave an opportunity to come back to Jordan Forget, who was up for 49 games last year. He took the demotion to the AHL at the start of this season well. You can see he scored 25 points in 24 games, including 15 goals. And definitely has a chance to get some playing time over the next few weeks. So he is back. And then Julian Mays, 21-year-old, who I believe, spent a #1 draft pick on years ago. Yeah, picked him 15th overall in 2026. Signed him a couple years back. He's been in the AHL this year, also pretty productive with 22 points, including 7 goals in 24 games. Going to have an opportunity to hopefully get a little bit of playing time over the next few weeks when we take a look at the schedule for the month of December. We do have some back-to-backs coming up relatively soon, and then another back-to-back before Christmas, although it's very possible we'll have some of the injured guys back by then. But you would think these back-to-back road games against Anaheim and San Jose to start off the month probably going to give us an opportunity to let Mays make his NHL debut, and also let Forget make his 2029 debut for the Blackhawks. So the season's going well so far, despite the fact that we are a little banged up, but no serious injuries at this point. Clearly the eye injury that was suffered by Mr. Bocage back in training camp was definitely a serious injury, but hopefully it's not going to have any lingering impacts on his ability to play high quality hockey at the NHL level, because certainly looking forward to hopefully having him back sometime in the month of January. And as I mentioned, hopefully we'll have Byfield and Nazar back before the end of the month. And Quinn Hughes should be back any day now. So the defensemen will be at full strength once Quinn Hughes is back. And then we'll hopefully have our trainer working on getting some of those injured forwards back as soon as possible as we get further through December. And we will find out the actual timeline for the return of all of those players in our next episode. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.